Coach, you work with so many different guys. I wanted to hone in maybe a little bit on the return game. Coach Pittman gave us names, and we're not sure kickoff. So could you maybe go through how everybody's looking?
Yeah, at punt return, Bryce Stevens is back. He had a big return for us in the LSU game last year. Isaiah Satega is also working at that spot. Harper Cole to me is kind of like a Perotti type guy, very dependable, very reliable. He's been back there for a couple of years. And then we worked Jaden Hazelwood back there a little bit as well. So those are kind of the four guys we're focusing on. At kick return, I think that's the area I think we can be better at this year. We have AJ back who kind of did some good things for us late in the year. Isaiah Satang is back there as well. And Matt Landers is working back there a little bit. And Rashad Dubion, which we call Dub, he's back there. He's done a great job as well. So we'll kind of, play with those guys here the next week and then try to make a decision.
Gotcha. Then I had a question about the punting situation. Sam said things were tightening up, maybe that Fletcher was, is having a good camp so far.
Yeah, I tell you, they both have done really well. Reed's a guy that when I got here didn't know a lot about him. He just, we always call him Dark Horse Bauer. He just never goes away, never quits playing good ball. And he's had a great camp. Fletcher's had a great camp, so that's going to be interesting. It's going to come down to the wire with those two, I think. And but been very, very pleased with both of them. I think we're much better there than we have been in the past.
What's the determining factor in that punter competition? Is it consistency or length, or what goes?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we look at a lot of factors, but we look at hang time and distance, which we call matchers. Kind of put those two together. And then we also look for field zones where they put the ball where we like to put the ball out in the field. Probably one of the overlooked things I think is important is to catch the kick, the operation. When they catch the ball, getting it off in time so we don't get a block punt.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of skill set Fletcher has for fakes, but obviously Reed's showing a penchant for that. Does that help him? Does that give him an edge because he's obviously made plays for you?
He had certainly come into camp. He has that edge because he's been our guy the last 2 years. So, and did a great job of holding as well. So we're excited about everything about Reed Bauer and what he's doing.
And then, Reed obviously had a good year. Cam had a really good year. How can those guys get better? Is there some areas they've been focused on? To
me, we're just always talking about consistency, And for Cam, he started out last year 8 for 8, and then he kind of hit a little bit of a lull. Then he finished up really strong. So I was just really preach to him about being consistent in what he does. The good thing is this is the first year we've had the holder and the field goal kicker back. So that's a big deal. Now we're breaking in a new long snapper, right? So that's different for him. But that's really kind of what we're looking for. And then we have the Bates kid that's transferred in here. He's done a very good job of competing as well. I've been very pleased with him.
Coach, when you're determining who's going to be your punt returner, kick returner, it's got to be difficult just because I doubt you do that live very often. How do you determine who wins the job?
Yeah, you'd love to go down and tackle them every time. It's just not something you get to do a lot of. But so it really comes back to more reliability. We try to put them in traffic drills, see if they're going to drop the ball. And we scrimmage on Saturday. I mean, it's fastball, full field cover, but we're not tackling a lot in that. But they're getting people in their face and just seeing how they handle it. That's the big thing is dependability. And, Bryce has a little bit of a lead going into camp because he did do that in the LSU game. And I think the UAPB game last year and had 2 big returns. But the other guys are doing really well. And that's a tight competition.
With Eli Stein, do you project him as your guy right now at snapper, or how's that competition?
Yeah, it's really very similar to the punting job. It's been a very tight race. We have him and John Orline, who's been in the program for a while, and Francisco Castro all been working at short snapper and at long snapper, and they've been very competitive. But Eli, as a freshman, just like Fletcher, he just got to grow up really quick. So like today was a rain day for us. We get out, if it's raining and we're indoor, we're going to always go outside and handle the ball. So I think it was really good for him to get that today. I was glad him and Fletcher both were able to get that outside today. So, but that'll probably come down here in the next 4 or 5 days.
Jordan Silver, he was so reliable for so long. What's it like not having him? And do you feel good about, whoever that snapper is, that's going to still be a good spot for you?
Yeah, I think when once we made that determining factor who that is, I feel good about it. I think we got three good choices. I've been in places where you got one guy and the other two are just guys. So we have three really good snappers here. But but anytime you lose a starter like Jordan Silver, very consistent guy, you just got to kind of start over and get someone ready. And after the first game, you'll feel better about it or worse about it. That's for sure. But I think we're heading in the right direction.
Maybe describe what kind of camp Cam's having, what kind of camp Reed's having. Just how would you break each of those guys down?
Yeah, Cam's been very consistent. I thought Cam had a really good spring, and he's had a really good fall camp, live and in charting. We do kind of a live charting and scrimmage, kind of break it up into three areas. He's been very consistent. And Reed's been very consistent as well, and our punters, and our field kickers as well, but particularly our punters, they've been very competitive and both been very good for us in camp. So I'm excited about both those guys. And we've had as good a camp with our punters as I've ever had, just their consistency on what they're doing. But that's the big thing for those guys coming back. Cam and Reed both just bring value because they've been there, done that. They play in big games.
Coach Pittman was telling us that I guess there's a pretty good battle with Cam and Jacob Bates for the kickoff guy.
Mhm.
How's that going? And who's got maybe the lead? Right
The good thing for Cam, like anybody, Cam is our field goal kicker, but he'd love to be the kickoff guy, right? So he's competing his tail off. He's certainly better than he was a year ago. He did kicking the bowl game for us. And then Bates is kind of a guy that was a soccer player, turned football, that always been a kickoff guy. So that's kind of when we brought him here to see how he would do, but he's done very well. So this scrimmage this Saturday would be really big for me to see how they kind of finish up camp.
Are you comfortable with a guy having the kicking, like field goal duties and kickoff, or would you like to have two separate guys?
Yeah, I have never had separate guys until I came here with Vito, and Vito was so good, he could do that for us. But when I was at Auburn, Daniel Carlson did both. At Georgia, Rodrigo did both. So I feel like I'm very comfortable with that. Doing all three would be tough. I think I've had one guy in my career do all three. So I think that's very doable, particularly after the freshman year. It was great for Cam to just be a field goal guy last year, So, and with long snappers, you could do that as well, right? You can split duties up if you needed to. So that gives you a little flexibility there.
Is there any way your touchback numbers could parallel Vito's from last year? And do you get to a stage where you'd prefer to kick down to the one and try to cover?
Yeah, that's always a debate with the head coach. Does he want to kick them out, or does he want to, we call them high kicks, get inside the 10 over 4-0 and try to go cover the kick. So we certainly have that in our package. And then we also we try to kick it out of the end zone. But that's really a head coach's call. If he wants to go cover them, or if he wants to try to kick it out. And then if you can kick them out, that's great. If you can't, you just got to cover them all.
That touchback rate last year was something else. Is there any way these guys can, push that?
We're hoping they can. I think we're 91% last year, which is pretty good for kickoffs. And but they're competing, and I think they're capable.
The Pro Kick Australia outfit has put so many punters in college, the college game. Are there facets of a punter that come out of that? Because I've talked to Max about it, and he has all the varieties, the rugbies, and all kind of different punts. Can you maybe talk to his strengths and how that camp?
Yeah, the kids coming from the Australian are very good with rugby and traditional. They just have their feet are like our hands here, right? They can do all kinds of things with the feet. So they're very comfortable with the ball in their hand. And the thing with Max, and his brother played at Cincinnati, but his dad was a professional Australian rules football player for a long time. So they bring some unique things, and sometimes they really make you think as a coach, hey, that's a good weapon. How can we incorporate that into our other 10 guys on the field? If that makes sense. But just very, very comfortable with their feet, which is different, right?
Did you happen to recruit Mason, or much about the family?
I don't. I do. I know much. I know a lot about the family now, but when Mason come out, I did not recruit him at all. We're not in the market for a punter at that moment, but I've certainly got to know the family. They're great people, and I think the mom and dad are coming over here to catch the game. It's a very, very long trip, about a 20-hour plane ride. So But they're excited about coming over and be able to see both their sons. That's kind of unique, to be able to do that.
Do they teach at Pro Kick Australia how to hold?
No, I don't think so. But I don't know if anybody teaches it much in high school, but we've been working on him in that department, but he's getting better with it every day. But that's typically new for a lot of punters.
From a travel standpoint, I don't know how many punters you have traveled, but does that factor into who wins the job, who's the best holder?
Yeah, that certainly can play into it. So we typically would travel 5 or 6 specialists. We try to carry 2 kickers, 2 punters, 2 long snappers, or you could take one off if a guy's a combo guy that could kick off, and maybe like Sam Lloyd was capable of kicking off last year, but then also he's a punter. So that certainly helps us and that brings value there. And 100% the holder is going to travel, right? That's real important. Got to score points.
You were able to get out on the road for the first time since COVID and recruit during the evaluation period. What kind of areas are you hitting? I know probably Southeast, obviously.
Yeah.
But areas that you're hitting specifically, and just what all things do you cover when you're out? What are you looking for in these specialists and other positions, I guess?
Yeah, for me, I have a pretty large area. I have a really small piece in the Hot Springs area in Arkansas. I'm recruiting the whole state of Alabama, which we're kind of going in and picking and choosing through that. Southwest Georgia, and then Orlando to West Palm. It's a really big area, but so in my area, I just, as a special teams guy, I've always felt like it's really important to contribute to your football team, recruiting my area and bringing in players at different positions. But also there's always a time in recruiting where you're going to stop for 2 or 3 days and just focus on the specialist. That'd be the same thing an O-line coach would do. But I've always kind of recruited in the Florida area. It's been I worked down there. My wife's from there, and so I feel very comfortable down there. But it's but the nugget where you got to go out and find those specialists. Those are tough days because there's a kicker in Florida, and that kicker might be in Missouri. So you're trying to get to 2 in a day if you can. So that makes it tough. If you're fortunate and there's 2 or 3 in an area, that's really awesome.
Coach, I'm curious just in terms of protections and penalties. Have you guys been pretty clean in camp, or you got some things to clean up?
Yeah, there's things you got to clean up. We had a first scrimmage Saturday and had a couple of issues with guys not being up on the line and punt. And I think we had one guy a little bit early on kickoff. So those are things that you'll clean up as you move forward. And the second scrimmage should always be better than the first one.
You guys call Reed Mr. Dark Horse or whatever that was. I remember Sam said last year that, he was talking to Reed, like, you keep bringing these guys in, I keep winning the job. What is it about Reed, his attitude, that enables him to do that? And how did he react when, he's obviously doing well, but you sign a punter?
Yeah, and that I'm sure that bothers any kid on your team, whether you sign a kid or bring a kid in, but I just always talk to them about it. You got to perform. It doesn't matter if that's a scholarship kid or a walk-on kid, just perform. And Reed's just always had he's just a winner as I look at it. He don't go away, just keeps competing. And that's what makes him, that's why he's had the success he has. And it was really exciting last year for him to get the hold of the year, because he just worked so hard at it. 2 years ago, nobody wanted Reed Bauer to hold the ball. No, let me use this other guy. And then he just worked at it, and he got good at it, and he holder of the year. So that's a tribute to his hard work and the person he is.
It's just bad, or what made him a bad holder?
Just had never done it in his career. And so just working it day in and day out kind of made a difference.
Seems like the depth overall on the team is maybe better than it has been. Have you noticed that trickle down to maybe like the coverage units and things like that?
Yeah, we have, I think, a little more speed than we've had in the past, which helps. And my first year here, we just really were moving guys around a lot. And last year, TJ Hammonds was a guy on punt. It was just a tremendous X factor for us getting down the field. But this year, I think we have a few more choices there, which I'm excited about. We brought in a couple of fast freshmen, got some good transfers in. And so I think our overall team speed is better than it's been.
And then Arkansas is kind of unique in that y'all aren't afraid to use a scholarship on a punter or a long snapper or a kicker. How do you go about determining which years to recruit those? Is it just a matter of, hey, we're losing a guy, we need to go replace him? Or
yeah, ideally, so I kind of give you 2 scenarios, and it's always about the head coach, right? And so Coach Pittman puts a lot of emphasis on special teams, and our kids see that. So I've been places where you have 3 on, and then the year before your kicker's a senior, you bring in a guy and let him watch behind. So when I'm at Auburn, Cody Parkey, who's I think with the Titans now, was a senior. We brought in Daniel Carlson and let Daniel get a few kicks that year. And so that's kind of what you do at some spots. So that's kind of what we're doing at punter a little bit. But also it's more about if a guy's leaving, we got to replace him. So we didn't do that at long snapper. And what you're always trying to do is develop kids that they come here that may walk on and develop them, and hopefully they can just be your guy. And if you're not there yet, then you go out and try to get the best in the country. With kickers, punters, and long snappers, you can get the best in the country if you scholarship them. If you don't, you got to bring a guy that might not be great coming out, maybe he's good, and you just got to develop him along there. So that's how I look at it. I mean, Cam Little, scholarship to him, and he worked out well for us, and so that's always a big deal if Coach Pittman will let us do it. And currently, that's what we're trying to do.
You brought up your gunners a minute ago. Who's in the top line of 2 or 3, 4 guys? That
right now we have about 4 guys. I mean, Day Bishop's back. He was hurt this spring. And Day, I did that a little bit for us a couple of years ago, but Day's value, he's very fast and he's a tackle. He plays on defense. You have AJ Green, you have Matt Landers, and Isaiah Satega plays there as well. So those are 4 that I'm excited about. They're all fast kids, and we just got to see who can get in there and get physical the most, and get off a hold up, those type things.
I was going to bring up the Mortello Award because there was something funny about it. The video that Bauer put out or whatever. Did y'all make a big deal out of the Mortello Award, or what?
Well, I mean, I did with Reed in our room. I think it is a big deal. Now I asked him, I said, the video, how this transpired? Do they bring you up there? And I said, he actually filmed all that back at home. And there's a lot of people you see in that videos in his family, or maybe it's people that work with him as a punter growing up.
A wealth of like medium-sized guys that can run, tackle, block. How much time do you spend just watching safeties, linebackers, tight ends, those types of players?
At the end of the day, you'd love to have a ton of running backs and linebackers on your team and big safeties, right? So I'm always with the young guys in particular. I go back, and when we sign them, I go back and watch the high school tape and say, what could he play on punt? What could he play on punt return for us? Because a lot of those kids may not play a lot of teams in high school. But then once they get here and they get on the field, we'll watch them in the mat drills and things. And then we get on the field, I just want to see how they're going to perform in 7-on-7, 1-on-1s, et cetera. And because that's where these linebackers. I tell you another thing we've done good here. I think we've brought in some, like Stewart. Stewart to me, he's an end, but he's kind of like a buck end. So to me, well, those guys bring such value. A Stewart, Davier that we just brought in. Eric Thomas, people like that do a lot of good things for me on teams because they're bigger guys, but they can run well. So that's another area I look at.
You're trying to block a kick. Who's the guy over the middle to do it, and who's the guy coming off the edge to do it?
I can't tell you that because I might give my secret away.
Speaking of secrets, is there some more plays for Reed to maybe make some plays? I know you can't be specific.
No, we're always working our fakes. It's something we do on a weekly basis, and then if we feel like in that game that is there, that's something we'll work all week. And then Pittman always makes a call on that. Let's do it or let's don't. And we always tell our kids it's always 50-50 on those. And if they work, man, you're a hero. They don't, what are we thinking? You know what I mean? So it can go either way, but we're always greasing that up, trying to have it ready.
Maybe he was the linebacker in high school, but what is it? Have I got that right?
Receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's receiver, linebacker. So, what is it that makes him, good in those situations? Obviously, you got to have, some ice.
Yeah, I think you got to have ice in your veins. I'll tell you a quick story about Reed, but I'm gonna come back to that. But I think it's about having that mental focus where you can block things out. All that noise you're hearing, the people yelling, just blocking it out and have tunnel vision. But Reed made a comment the other day that we get in the room, we let them tell the stories in camp. So they go back and let's let the whole group kind of know how they grew up, how they got to Arkansas. And Reed said, when Fountain got here, and I guess it was Reed's 3rd year, he said, I'm going out to Fountain. He said, I'm not starting, but I'm traveling. Fountain comes up and says, you got the next punt. And he said, it's the last punt of the game. I got to get it off. We're going to lose. He said, I'm telling you, I about blacked out. You know what I mean? But I guess through playing and reps, he doesn't feel that way anymore,
How come you decide to have him on that situation.
That game, we were going to do a rugby punt, and we knew they were going to rush up the middle with not showing it, and it was great. I don't know if you remember Mississippi State last punt of the game. We rugby, nobody was there, got a nice punt off, and went on to win the game. So that's why we did it.
For the record, Kern bailed out Bauer last year against Bama. I just want that on the
No
record.
doubt. Let me tell you what I did first day of camp. I texted Kern and I sent him that video in that game. I said, man, we sure miss you. He said, man, I miss y'all too.
Y'all made such strides overall in special teams last year. Is there more in store? Like, can you be better?
I think we can be better for sure. I want to see us. It's so important to me to be a good punt return team. And as a kickoff return team, I think it's so important to be smart in your decisions. You know, when to bring it out, when not to bring it out, when to fair catch it, et cetera. And I want us to just continue to thrive to be the best we can. Okay. Thank y'all.